What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the David Greene Show here today with the show where we're going to be covering the Longshoremen strike. I will admit I don't know a ton of the politics behind the strike, and frankly, that's not the point of this channel. It's not to be political. We're not picking sides. We're just sharing how this will affect you as an investor, as a person trying to build wealth, as a person who wants to eat food or use goods, and what you need to know about it. Maybe if you guys have a little bit more information on the politics of this, you can let me know in the comments what you think. Let's be respectful to everybody else, but oftentimes these situations are complicated and nuanced. There's different sides to the same story. We want to make sure that we get all of them. So if you know about information from either side of this, if you're pro-strike or anti-strike, let me know in the comments what you're thinking. I've got some videos that I'm going to share with all of you. Getting started in a second here. Before we get into it, a few housekeeping items. The show is brought to you by Spartan League, my real estate university. So if you like this kind of content, if you like my style, if you like the straight shooting, no nonsense style of education, go to SpartanLeague.com or DM me the word Spartan on Instagram. If you're listening to this on Instagram right now, you can also comment the word Spartan. You can get information about the group. You can also reach out to me if you want one of the people to connect with you and see if it might be the right fit for you. Carlos Chavez says the real estate god is live. Well, there's only one god, but I do know what you mean, and I appreciate it. It's probably better than being called a goat. Yeah. If you guys are not listening to this live, it's okay. Please make sure you follow the channel, subscribe to get notified when I go live so that you hear about it, and check out some of my other videos. I have a podcast called The David Greene Show, available on Spotify and Apple. Would love for you guys to go sign up for that and leave me a 5-star review if you haven't already done so. I also go live on YouTube here, and then you can find me all over social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever your flavor, at David Greene 24. And then I have in the works a new website coming. It's going to be called realtalkrealestate.com, and a new book that I'm working on that I'm going to be publishing. So that'll be pretty cool. I think it's going to be called Better Than Cash Flow, the 10 ways you make money in real estate. And Afro says, when will you start taking live calls? I think that's going to happen when I get a new recording studio. So I'm going to be moving, and I need to build a whole new studio. And when that happens, I'm going to be going live every single day, bringing guests in to come talk and talking about real estate, but also more than real estate, like a lot of different stuff, kind of different people that are making money in different ways. The interviews will be live, and they're a lot better than just the Zoom recordings. I'll probably do like news things like this from a studio like this is fine, but I want to get to where I build a whole set. We do it that way. Matthew says, looking forward to the book. If you guys want to get notified about the book and other things, you can join my Textletter. It's completely free, and I have 2 of them. All you have to do is go to Instagram and comment the word text. It's going to ask for your name, your email, and your phone number. People get weird. They don't want to put their phone number in there. Like, I'm going to call them in the middle of the night. That's not why I'm asking for it. I just need a place to send you a text letter. It has to be texted to you. If you only put in your email, we can give you the email version, but they're not the same newsletter. The email one is a little bit more like news heavy, and the text one is a little bit, there's still a lot of news in it, but it's a little more friendly and fun. You're also going to get weekly rate updates as rates are dropping. You should be paying attention to those. I've been talking about this a lot on social media. We probably started in the last 4 days, 150 refinances for different people, saving a lot of money on their mortgages. So if you bought a property in the last 2 years and you have a rate above 6.5 on a primary, above 7 on an investment property, you should reach out to us or me specifically and let me connect you to the right person to help you. You can do that by emailing me, or you can do that by sending me a DM on your favorite social media. We've already got people on Instagram now sending the word text and the word Spartan. So awesome. All right, let's get to our first video. This is going to come to you from PBD himself, Patrick Bet David. We interviewed him on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I met his wife, actually. I don't know that I met him in person. He was in the building when I was there. I heard him talking, but I didn't actually come across him. But I do hope to meet him at some point because I really like the stuff that he does. He has a great podcast, which you should go check out. You should also consider following him on Valuetainment. Let's see what he has to say. He's the first video that I've got 4 shorter ones after his.
were worried about inflation. Here's another event that could cause prices to go up. And what that is the East Coast port strike. First time ever, possibly since 1977. We're talking about an association with 85,000 members, the International Longshoremen's Association. This is the North American's largest longshoremen's union, about to strike after midnight tonight. I'm shooting it on Monday tonight. Let me tell you why this is important to you. Here's what they're asking for. Of these 85,000 members, roughly 45,000 of the workers are involved. They're asking for a 77%.
Assuming a 40-hour work week, this is really important to notice. The West Coast port workers a couple years ago, I think they went on strike. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if it was on strike or if it was just the threat of one, but there was drama on the West Coast as we had issues with the ports. I remember that. I remember I looked at, that's where the word longshoremen comes from, because they work along the shore. And they were able to negotiate themselves $116,000 a year wages because they belong to a union. Now, I think it's safe to assume the cost of living is much higher on the West Coast than it is on the East Coast. So they made more than the people on the East Coast. The East Coast people are making $81,000 a year, which may sound like it's not that bad, but I think their argument, we're going to find, deals with the fact that inflation has eaten away at their purchasing power, but they haven't gotten raises in connection to it. But part of the reason why is if you give them raises, then you have to charge more to everybody else to buy the things. And we get into this big, nasty inflation debacle. I mean, inflation has us in a chokehold. Like here on Gracie, it's got our back and you don't know how to get out of it. It's not good. So the ILA, that is the name of the East Coast Longshoremen's Union. I don't remember what it stands for, but that's what it is. It's whatever. Wants a 77% wage hike over a 6-year contract. That is wild. They're trying to go from 81,000 to, we're going to hear about it, but it's like 145,000 or something crazy.
Percent raise for the next 6 years. This is 36 ports. Roughly 43% of all U.S. imports pass through these ports. This is the first time they may be going through a strike since 1977. And they're worried because automation could lead to job reductions by 15 to 30%. And you should know about this. You know why? Here's a number for you. Watch this. Port of New York and New Jersey handles $240 billion of annual goods. A strike just in one of these ports could cost $641 million in one of the ports. The one in Virginia could cost $600 million a day. We're going to talk about that today. If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so why are they doing this? So the East Coast workers are saying, look, why don't you match our salary with the West Coast workers? They work 40 hours a week. You pay them $116,000 a year, but you're paying us only $81,000 a year. We want a raise. So are they asking to match that number? Because that raise would be a 43% raise. But they're not asking for a 43% raise. They're asking for a 77% raise, which would be $143,000. One, union's doing their part. The other is the fact that they're worried automation, 15 to 30% of jobs could be eliminated. So they're doing their part, and union and these guys are going back and forth. And by the way, it's so nasty. Let me read a couple quotes to you here. I think everyone's a bit nervous about it, says Mia Ginter, director of North American Ocean Shipping for C.H. Robinson, a logistics company. The rhetoric this time with the ILA is at a level we have never seen before. This is from CBS News. They're nervous. This is legit. Now, how will you be affected by it? Well, let's go through these things. What products will be affected by it? When you look at the top importing companies exposed to this strike just in the last 12 months.
This is good. I'm pausing the screen just so we can all look at it for a bit. If you're not able to look at your screen right now, it shows Walmart, IKEA, Samsung, Bob's Discount Furniture. I had no idea there was a company named Bob's Discount Furniture, much less that it was above LG and Home Depot and how much it imports. Is that me? This has nothing to do with the video, but am I just that out of it because I'm always locked in on running businesses that I didn't know that there's a behemoth called Bob's Discount Furniture? That sounds like if you're watching some movie and they need like the name of a random company in the background, that's what they'd call it. Anyways, let me know in the comments if I'm completely out of it or if you've never heard of this either. LG, Home Depot, Continental Tire, Hyundai, Dollar General, General Motors, Amazon, Folgers, Goodyear, Tire and Rubber, Michelin, Heineken, and Pepsi. These are some big heavy hitters These are the top importing companies that will be exposed to the impending port strike.
You'd have Walmart, IKEA, Samsung, Bob's Discount Furniture, LG, Home Depot. Look at the list of names. Amazon, General Motors, Michelin, Heineken, Pepsi. Then if you go to the different ports, this one's New York and New Jersey. GM, Globus, LG, Samsung, again, Heineken, Continental Tire, Volkswagen, IKEA. You see the names. You may shop at these places. The one in Virginia, Walmart, IKEA, QVC. You got Ace Hardware, Dr. Pepper, 7-Up, Home Depot. These are things you and I buy. This is the one at Savannah. Savannah, you'll see again Walmart. You'll see again Hyundai, IKEA, LG, Electronics. A lot of the similar names. Amazon again. You know, this next one is Houston. People are being affected by it. Now, product-wise, what will be affected? What's going to go up if these guys continue? So in a couple of these places, when we look at this, perishable items at risk, bananas, 25% of the nation's bananas move through ports that could go on strike. 25% of the bananas. Cherries, other perishable fruits transported affected through these ports. Imported alcohol, wine, beer, hard liquor, raw materials, cocoa, sugar, non-perishable items, furniture, appliances. Port of Baltimore handles the large volume of auto imports in the U.S.
All right, breaking news coming in. Bob's Discount Furniture apparently is an East Coast company. This is coming in through my Instagram sources, and I live on the West Coast. I've never lived on the East Coast. That's why I've never heard of it.
Critical point for the auto industry. Exemptions and exceptions are military cargo. The union has pledged to continue handling military shipments even during the strike. All right, while this is going on, Pete Buttigieg and Julie Su have urged...
In case you didn't know, that's not a sign of goodwill from the union. They're not like, hey, guys, we want to still work for the military. There are laws in place that allow the law enforcement agencies to come in and shut down a strike if they refuse to, I really don't know the exact verbiage of it, but if they stop working for the government or the military. Because if you think about it, if you allowed striking during a time of war where it could compromise national security, what would happen is your enemy, say China, would come in and pay our longshoremen to go on strike. And then all of the ballistics and the medical supplies and the things that we need to win a war would no longer be able to be shipped out or come in. And that could be a massive, devastating problem. So while they have said, yes, we will still work with military supplies, they don't have a choice, because if they don't do that, then the government itself will come in, shut that whole thing down, replace them with people that are going to work, and the point of the strike would be lost.
Negotiations, but Biden-Kamala Harris administration has ruled out invoking the Taft-Hartley Act, which is from the 40s. You know what that is? That's when the union, they're like, hey, you're trying to take advantage of these companies and the employers. You're forcing employers, put them in a bad situation. You guys better come back to work or else you lose your benefits. They're not going to want to do that right now. You know why? Because of a couple things. One, what has been the economy dealing with the last 2 years that a guy named Jerome Powell just lowered the rates by 0.5 basis points a week and a half ago? You know why? To kind of mess with the inflation side. Guys, can we lower the interest rate? Oh my God, thank you for this 0.5 basis point. Stock market's going back up. No one's talking about inflation anymore until this now. So you know who's going to feel this? Do you remember when all of a sudden you were trying to buy a used car, all this other stuff, you're feeling the prices. Wait a minute. Why did this go up all of a sudden? What's going on with this stuff? What are you talking about? I need this thing. We can't get the chips from China. What? The chips from China? Who cares about these chips? Well, guess what? Most of these chips for ACs, for cars, all this stuff. That's why used car prices are 30% higher. Oh, I can't afford to buy it. If this happens to you, the next 35 days, you know what's going on in 35 days? It's this thing called election, November 5th. And if we're talking about just one of the ports, $600 million a day, that's the one in Virginia. And the other one is $641 million a day. Just the two of them together is $1.2 billion a day. That's 2 out of 36 ports. Do $1.2 billion over the next 35 days. You know what that is? Roughly $42 billion, not including the other 34. You think a Harris, Biden administration wants to deal with that? You think you want to deal with that? Do you want that? You don't want that, right? This is going on right now, and it's things like this at the wrong time that can impact the other party, because Trump is a guy that capitalizes off his opportunities. Guess what he's going to be saying tomorrow? If I was president, this would have never happened to you. I cannot believe the union didn't take care of you. And by the way, when you think union, what side do you typically think about? Jimmy Hoffa, left or right? Left. We got you. We're not going to let the employer like Ford take advantage of you guys. Why is Ford Motor Company allowing you to work 69 hours a week? We're going to come and save you. We're the union. You're only going to work 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, and they're going to pay you overtime. And now, You don't get this union of 85,000 workers, and you've always been the one that gets the Dems. And a recent union came out and said, we're not endorsing anybody this for the first time. We're not endorsing anybody from left. They've been endorsing people from the left. Terrible timing for Kamala Harris. Horrible timing. But even a worse timing for the consumer, which is you, which that's what you care about, how this is going to affect your pocketbook. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you've never seen the video I did, The Dark Side of Unions, you're going to enjoy it. Click here to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. All right, that was Patrick Bet-David's talk on this. Let me know in the comments what you think. It was short, sweet. It was to the point. Let's get to our next video here. Good stuff on this one, too.
45,000 union dock workers likely to walk off the job at midnight, kicking off a massive strike that could shut down ports from Maine to Texas.
And we have to fight for what we rightfully deserve. Let's get a contract and let's move on with this world.
The union demanding a 77% wage increase over 6 years. And
could that guy have been any more East Coast if he tried? Let's get a contract over here. We got stuff to do.
Limits on the use of the automation of cranes, gates, and container moving trucks. The United States Maritime Alliance has responded, offering a 40% pay hike. The imminent strike between the International Longshoremen's Association and the United States Maritime Alliance would impact 14 ports that handle about half the goods shipped in and out of the U.S., disrupting the shipping industry, leading to delays in goods and possible price increases, everything from cars to fresh fruits, machinery, appliances, and electronics. According to Oxford Economics, in all, it could cost the American economy up to $7.5 billion per week. The Port of New York, New Jersey, one of the nation's busiest. New York's governor is preparing.
I want to reassure everybody we have been taking countless precautionary steps to speed up the process of unloading these ships and deal with the cargo containers in advance of this. So we're in much better shape than we had been if we had not done this.
ABC's Elizabeth Schulze is in Baltimore, Maryland, where the owner of an Asian food warehouse says more than half of the company's merchandise stock will be stalled if the strike happens.
The costs and the complete stoppage of inventory coming into the company would have a huge impact on everyone who works here, and most importantly, our customers, because they're going to see prices rise, they're going to see products become less available.
And here's where this ties in to our world as real estate investors, enthusiasts, and aficionados. If everything becomes more expensive, it's harder for us and our tenants to pay our own housing costs. We already have a really bad issue with inflation. I'm sick of saying the word inflation. It's like all that I'm able to talk about because it affects everything. Everything is bad. We all tend to look at money like I want more of it. But it doesn't benefit you to get more money if the money you're getting buys you less stuff. What you actually want is more purchasing power, okay? If this is a wild concept, but just think about this. If you never got a raise again, however, the cost of everything you were buying went down, it would be like getting a raise. You don't have to get wealthier by getting more money. You can also get wealthier by having your money go further with what you buy. That may sound impossible to you, but it's not. And here's why. Technology actually makes things cheaper. I want you to think about what a big screen TV cost 10 years ago. Why is it so much cheaper now? I want you to think about what a smartphone cost when they were brand new compared to what they cost now. When you adjust for inflation, it's way, way less. What about watching movies? You would have to go to a movie theater, pay a bunch of money. Now you can get it on Netflix and watch. What's your cost per movie if you're streaming it? It's crazy low, right? A lot of things become less expensive over time because technology increases the efficiency at which we can produce them and use them. Yet their price keeps going up. That's how bad inflation is. Even as the cost of the things that we're producing is going down because of how easily we can produce them, the price of them is going up. And this is what you have to understand. Don't be lulled into this false sense of confidence because you got a raise at work of 5%. If the cost of living went up by 15%, it was like getting a pay cut of 10%. I talk about this in my book, Pillars of Wealth.
President Biden saying he does not plan to intervene, which he has the power to do so, saying it is collective bargaining, urging USMC to come to a fair agreement quickly. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
If you're not making a...
All right. So we have President Biden saying he's not going to intervene, as the reporter there stated correctly. He doesn't have to. It's collective bargaining. He can choose to stay out of it if that's what he wants to do. There is nothing that's going to force the president to get involved in this. And his stance so far has been, I'm not getting involved. I don't know where he said that. I'm sure it could have happened. I just haven't seen it. I can't remember the last time I even saw him on TV ever. In a long time, I haven't heard anything from President Biden, but other people are talking about it. All right, let's get to some of the comments here. Someone wants to see me interview Justin Waller. I like Justin quite a bit. He's been a very good friend to me. What would you guys like to see me talk to Justin about? Cubicle Investor, I am conflicted about unions. Think about what would happen if every company had unions and everyone threatens to strike for raises. Yeah, this Cubicle Investor brings up a solid point here. It is not healthy when we look at the world in terms of everything is either good or bad. It's against me or it's for me. It's much better to look at it objectively. Have you ever been in, like, seen one of your friends get in a disagreement with someone and you're like, hey man, you're wrong. Like, you need to stop arguing. And they go, you're on their side instead of mine, because they're looking at everything emotionally. Like you're not their friend anymore because you told them that they were wrong, when actually a good friend would tell you that you're wrong. There's other things in life like that too. You may vote for Republicans, but that doesn't mean Republicans are always right. They could easily be wrong about things. Same with Democrats. It's not good when you get your values from a political party or from a philosophy. You should have your own values, and then you should look for a party or a philosophy that already kind of adheres to them, but you shouldn't be getting told what to think by them. Unions are good when workers are being taken advantage of. Unions are bad when businesses are being taken advantage of. And it goes both ways. We just don't always like to hear about it going both ways, because most of us associate with the worker, which is the union. Like, I remember being a little kid and hearing about athletes on sports teams going on strike, or their version of that, which was like a holdout. Okay. So some player negotiates $5 million a year for 3 years. That's what he's worth when he does it. Then he has an amazing first year. And he realizes, damn, I could have made $10 million a year if I had these stats when I was negotiating. Instead of saying, well, I got 2 more years at the contract that I agreed to, then if I'm still performing well, I can get more money. Many of them say, I'm not going to come play for my team until I get more money. Okay. Now that might sound to the regular average person like us, yeah, pay him what he's worth, right? The problem is, what about all the players that got $5 million and they sucked? You don't remember seeing that on your favorite sports team? Most of us don't know how the finances of a team look, but there's salary caps. So you can only pay people so much money. So if this player got themselves a really good contract, that hurts the team if they don't play good, because that money could have gone to somebody that plays better, but they weren't able to. How many times do owners say, hey, I agreed to pay you that money, but I'm not going to pay you that money. I'm going to pay you less because you didn't agree to the terms of the contract. We would never let an owner get away with that. We would force the owner to pay them what they were owed and they agreed to, even if they play poorly. But for some reason, when they play well, we make the exception in the other direction. You see how that's not really objective? Things can happen in the case too. This is not me taking an opinion, because as I started the video, I don't know enough to have an opinion about the unions with longshoremen, right? I'm sure many of you have family members there that could give me perspective that I don't know. And I'm sure many of you may say, hey, no, this $145,000 a year that they're trying to negotiate, that just is going to make the West Coast go on strike too. And then they're going to demand that they should make $175,000. And then everybody's going to start doing this all the time, going on strike, demanding higher wages. And then what happens? Inflation gets worse. Inflation gets even worse. And all the people that don't go on strike get thrown into this mess. And now all that, those wages that they demanded that they got, end up not being worth as much because everything costs more money. You see how we can't get out of this inflation cycle? That's what has really concerned me. And I happen to be involved in the world of real estate, where real estate benefits from inflation. This is not me gleefully saying, oh, I hope that this happens even more, because I'm still a human being and I don't love it. I don't like the way things are going down. Alex says, experts say every day of the strike will take 5 to 7 days to recover. That's scary. Curl says technology makes labor cheap too. Good point. Jennifer says, if you don't want to say inflation, call them cookies. Just like inflation, you won't notice weight gain, but too many cookies and the scale moves. And then Hani says, if I buy a new construction to turn into a rental in a community with a single builder building cookie cutter homes, how do I make my property stand out from competing neighbors doing the same? Short answer is you don't, but that's funny that you said cookie cutter right after Jennifer talked about cookies. Cookies are making a comeback here on the David Greene Show. All right, let's get into our next video from President or former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Look, Americans are already struggling with inflation under Kamala Harris.
Have you guys ever seen Donald Trump wearing a blue tie? I'm like, was this filtered? I've never seen that before, ever. He's always wearing a red tie. I never even thought about the fact he's always wearing a red tie until I just saw him wearing a blue one.
How does this supply chain issue going to build up and once again be another disastrous economic episode under Kamala Harris?
It's massive. It's massive. Those workers are very important to the lifeblood of our country, and it's a massive thing. But don't forget, they've been hurt very badly with inflation. You know, those workers, some people would be upset with them and some people not, but those workers were very badly hit with inflation. And, you know, they're not happy and they do a good job. And they also don't want to see certain new technologies, which.
So this is a good point here he's making when he says certain new technologies. I'm fairly certain he's referring to artificial intelligence that these dock workers have recognized could take their jobs or make less of them needed or allow these companies to force them to take less. So they may be a preemptive strike where they realize if we wait, they're going to eliminate our wages and replace us with AI. So let's get a contract that forces them to pay us this much money for at least the next 6 years, and then we're probably out of a job. That could be an element of this too. But what I wanted to highlight is that they're being affected by inflation, which has led to them feeling like we need more money, so we're going on strike because we're not getting enough raises. If they are awarded the money they want, that will create more inflation because now we're paying them more and the wages of everyone around them will go up too. If more people go on strike, that will create more inflation. And during the strike, it will create what? More inflation. Because now there's going to be a shortage of the goods that used to come in. You're reducing the supply of what comes into the country, meaning what's already here is going to sell for more. That's why I'm covering this story. I don't see a scenario that doesn't lead to significantly more inflation, no matter how this plays out.
In many cases don't work very well. I mean, you know, when they modernize sports, a lot of times it doesn't work. There's nobody to talk to. It's very inaccurate. I've heard a lot of complaints about these modernized stations, a lot of very big complaints. But those are really hard workers. I know some of them. And no, that's going to be a tremendous hit. There's another one. Biden shouldn't have let that happen. Not that he should have ended it. He should have worked out a deal between them and the others. He could have worked out a deal. That's an easy deal to work out in a sense because you have a certain power of being the United States. A lot of these are foreign ship owners, and you have a lot of power being the U.S., and that should have been worked out. It's a devastating event for the economy. It's also devastating for inflation because everything's going to cost a lot more because of it. I don't know how long it's going to go on, but I understand the workers' side. I mean, I see both sides. These workers have been devastated by inflation, and the inflation was caused by stupid energy policies, and equally as much by deadhead spending. And that's what they call it. They call it deadhead spending. You know why? Because stupid people do what they did, and that caused inflation. So they were badly hurt. Thank you.
This is a hidden gem that people don't know about. I don't want to live
All right, there we have former President Donald Trump kind of weighing in on his take on the whole situation. Sounds like pretty reasonable stuff there. He made a good point, but he glanced over it. I'm going to actually see if I can find a video. I was just starting to look for it right when the video ended of Donald Trump being interviewed by Dave Ramsey. I've only heard the first part of it. It was really good where it started. And both of them, Donald Trump and Dave, were talking about how when energy costs get too high, everything else gets high also. All right. If you think about it, energy is kind of the common denominator with the cost of almost everything. So you have the cost of bread. Bread is going to be grown and sold. Well, the cost of gas to fuel the machines and energy to produce the way that you get the bread put together goes up. So does the cost of the production of it. Then you got to ship that bread to a store somewhere. The cost of gas goes up. That costs a lot more. Then you got to keep the bread in a store somewhere. The cost of energy to keep the store running goes up. You see where I'm getting at here? Energy is a common denominator. And when energy becomes more expensive, everything becomes more expensive. It's like if you had a restaurant that had one ingredient in every single item of food and that one ingredient went up, you have to charge more for every single thing in your restaurant. Wages work similar. When we increase minimum wage, it doesn't matter what the company is. If it hires people at minimum wage, you have to raise the prices of everything. And the argument there was, if we can figure out a way to get energy costs lower, which they were discussing that there are relatively straightforward ways to do it, not only can we bring our own inflation down, but we can start selling energy to other countries, making us less dependent on them and giving us leverage when it comes to negotiating things. So if we don't want them charging us too much, like say, China is shipping things here and they're making it expensive and we want it to be cheaper to get our own inflation down. If we're selling them energy, we say, hey, you want this gasoline, you want this oil, you're going to give us what we want on this side. And not only are we making money from the energy that we're selling them, but we're saving money in what they're charging us. This is the way that smart people think when they're trying to build their own wealth. They look at the thing that's costing them money everywhere, how they get rid of it, and they look to get several wins out of the same move. So I think it was a really smart idea to look into what the US can do to produce more energy and sell that to other countries, as opposed to buying it from other countries and putting ourselves in a position of weakness. Christopher Lloyd says that was a great interview with Ramsey and Trump. Andre says that technology will trump. They may no longer be longshoremen, but highly trained maintenance personnel and programmers are needed to keep the goods flowing. Just a transfer of jobs. Ronald says unions don't arbitrarily strike to get a higher wage because another union was successful. Strikes occur when existing contracts expire and the companies offer a new package that is totally unfair. Solid point there, Ronald. You guys are giving some really good comments here. Tom Alvarez, too much politics for a reel. Too much politics for an investment channel. Oh boy, I love when people say something like that. I'm not a big fan of politics, but usually people only say there's too much politics when they don't like the political topic. And I'll also say this: if you think politics don't affect your ability to grow wealth, you're not paying attention. If you think the political environment didn't have a lot to do or everything to do with the inflation that we have right now, you're not paying attention. And if you think inflation isn't important, I have no idea why you're following me, because it's the most important thing from an economy standpoint. If the company was already price gouging to begin with, shouldn't they actually have room to pay higher wages and energy prices? I mean, theoretically, what you're saying is true. I just don't know what company we're saying was price gouging. Hey, David, if you didn't evolve into the alpha investor and educator, what else would you be doing? Well, thank you for the compliment. I'd probably still be a police officer or some form of like federal agent. I'd probably work for a federal law enforcement agency and be catching bad guys. Jack Johnson says, my guy, make sure you chop this up. Jack, can you mention what you mean by chop this up? Because I'm not following there. But selling energy is not really equal to cheaper goods. How would toilet paper company lower the price of export when the state-owned utility companies buy U.S. energy? The idea there would be if we are able to produce our own energy, we get the cost lower, so it's less money to produce and ship the toilet paper to somewhere else. And then people are going to say, well, that just means the company will make more profit. No, because then some other company comes in and offers the same thing lower and steals the business away from them. That's the idea of capitalism. All right, let's get to our next video.
Joining me now is United Refining Company Chairman and CEO and the Chairman and CEO of Red Apple Group, John Catsimatidis, back with us. John, good to see you. We've talked a lot about inflation and your firsthand knowledge of what's going on at the cash register these days. How worried are you that this strike spikes another inflation string of moves?
right now, inflation is going to go up again. Produce prices, food prices, because of the strike, are going to go up again. And then Kamala Harris, the vice president, is going to accuse us of price gouging. But it was very simple for the current president.
It's funny that he just mentioned price gouging when we just had somebody in the comments that was talking about price gouging.
The United States, who is a Democrat, and theoretically wants Kamala Harris reelected, to extend it 60 days beyond Election Day. What do we have, 35 days to Election Day? Nobody understands why the president did not extend it 60 days, other than the fact that he is still very upset. President Biden and Jill Biden are very upset that they got stabbed in the back by, whether it was Nancy Pelosi, whether it was Kamala Harris, whether it was President Obama. Who knows who did the demand that they don't run again? But it was a coup at the White House, and President Biden is not like it. What happens is prices will go up again. You have the East Coast closed from products coming in. You got the Suez Canal, the Red Sea still closed on oil. So oil is $10 or $15 higher than it should be because the Suez Canal and the Red Sea are closed. Food prices are going to go up again. So you're going to have a vicious circle if we're not smart enough to sit down and negotiate and have a rational discussion.
So you think because Joe Biden was stabbed in the back by all those Democrats, that maybe this is one of the ways that he'll be acting out, and he'll act out on policy. He's not going to get involved in the strike just to say, stick it to you because you stuck it to me. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that's a great possibility. And The fact is, he could have extended it 60 days and have binding mediation or have some kind of mediation and do the right thing. But this is going to hit right between the eyes in the next 35 days on Election Day. Well, not only the food prices, we're building buildings and we need the windows. And guess what? The windows are on a ship someplace or whatever. And that's going to delay things.
That's a good point, because whatever you need to make progress, whether it's building homes or selling goods, you've got a wrench thrown into everything because you don't have the materials you need. They're on a ship somewhere. Former President Trump is blaming Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for the inflation that ultimately led to the port strike. He told Fox Digital, everybody understands the dock workers because they were decimated by this inflation, just like everybody else in our country and beyond. Biden weighed in yesterday in an official statement. Joe Biden says this: collective bargaining is the best way for workers to get the pay and benefits they deserve. Ocean carriers have made record profits since the pandemic. It is time for USMX to negotiate a fair contract with the Longshoremen that reflects the substantial contributions they've been making to our economic comeback. So, John, it sounds to me like Joe Biden is firmly on the side of the picketers.
Oh, absolutely. But you have to look at it both ways. Joe Biden is a union man, and he's on the side of the picketers. But
unfortunately, his policies have not done much for the union men. Unfortunately, his policies have not done anything for the union men and women. And I think that's why maybe the managers are with Kamala. But the union men and women, I think, are with Trump.
I think like the Teamsters. Right. I would say 70% of the Teamsters of the working people are with Trump. They want to save America versus.
All right, they're getting into the political side of it, which isn't as much use to us here on this channel. But as you can hear, grocery store CEO warns over the port strike. It's going to hit you right between. In fact, maybe if I fast forward a little bit, we can get past this section. I don't know if you said that yet.
Electronics, medical supplies. Some organizations are warning 1 day of striking causes 5 days of backlogs. But the Department of Agriculture is out with this statement saying our analysis shows we should not expect significant changes to food prices or availability in the near term. Our administration supports collective bargaining as the best way for workers and employers to come to a fair agreement. So they all got the talking points with the collective bargaining. In terms of energy, the Department of Energy says this. The strike will not impact crude oil, natural gas, and other liquid fuel imports or exports. As such, operations are handled by other workers. The strike will not have any immediate impact on fuel supplies John. So give us your take on exactly what gets impacted. You as an oil man, as well as a grocery man, what are you waiting for that you think you're not going to get your hands on? And how significant could a spike in inflation be, and when?
Maria, the Suez Canal, the Red Sea is still closed. If it wasn't closed, oil would be down $10 to $15 a barrel. The fact that right now the East Coast is closed, and that's going to affect food prices. So,
all right. So he's mentioning the Suez Canal being down. That makes oil more expensive. Why? Because we're importing it. We're not getting oil out of our own country. We shut down most of our pipelines, and the groceries as well. They are going to go up if we can't ship them in. My guess is that would be affected way more on the East Coast. If we're on the West Coast and our ports are still open, I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. So if you want to move to the West Coast, make sure you contact me. I'll connect you with someone from the David Greene team. We'll help you buy a house.
Oil to food to interest rates, because oil prices stay up, causes food to stay up, and causes inflation goes up. And guess what? Then that's why interest rates are up, and that's why the real estate market gets destroyed. It's step by step by step.
All right, John, we're going to be watching the...
Well, he tried to sum up his thoughts there. I think he probably lost his train of thought a little bit at the end. And I believe I have found the video that I was referring to a minute ago. It's Dave Ramsey and Donald Trump. I wasn't able to listen to it yet, and I have to sit through YouTube playing ads, unfortunately, because I have YouTube Premium on my phone, but it never lets me log into it on my computer. I haven't been able to figure that out. So if you hang with me for another 2 seconds, we should have the stuff up and running, and we'll be able to talk about why energy costs, according to Trump's philosophy, and Dave Ramsey seems to second it, are what are behind inflation being so high. And I don't think you can stop inflation, but you can slow it down a lot if you can get energy under control. Let's go.
That audience that's going to be watching this they're not concerned with a lot of things, but they are concerned with $8 eggs, $5 gas, 7% interest rates, and a house they can't afford with wages not going up as fast as house prices. This inflation thing's a big deal. So in the first 90 days, the strokes that you make to change the economy when you're elected are a big deal. What's the first things you're going to do on that?
Well, in terms of inflation, you're right. And it's almost inflation over the economy, if you want to really know, because people are getting wiped out like never before. I think it's the highest inflation we've ever had. They say it's the highest in 48 years. I think it's the highest ever. There's never been any mess like this. And it's because of what they did with energy. Also, then they topped it with spending with money, that trillions and trillions of dollars that they didn't need, that's being just wasted. But the first thing you have to do is get the energy down. If you get the energy down, other things are going to follow. You want to get the interest rates down too. And interestingly, even interest rates are going to follow energy, because it's going to take that burden off the shoulders of the economy and off the shoulders of inflation itself. And we are going to drill at a level that you haven't seen since, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago. But even more so, we would have been so dominant by this point. If you remember, when you go back to the beginning of this really failed administration that we're in right now, what they did was they turned off the energy. They turned off everything that I had built.
So you turned back on the Keystone. You're going to turn back on the drill baby drill line and the
it's drill baby
in your
drill.
acceptance speech at the convention.
Sure. It says it all. You know, I'd like to use another line, but there's no line that's better. And we're going to drill baby drill. But the fact that they turned it off, and then the energy, if you look back at the very initial period of their administration, the numbers started going through the roof, the energy numbers. Inflation was good. And then They went back to Trump, where they're trying to equal it, and it kept it bad as opposed to horrific. And it's been really bad, and the energy has been very expensive, but nothing like it could have been. So they went back to Trump type things, but we would have been now 3 to 4 times more. We would have been dominating the entire world on energy. We have more than anybody else, as you've heard me say, but as you also know,
right?
We have, I call it liquid gold. We have more liquid gold under our feet than anybody else, actually by far. We would have dominated. We would have been taking care of Europe. We would have been taking care of Asia. We would have been taking care, Anwar in Alaska is the biggest find anywhere in the world. It could be as big as Saudi Arabia. And I got it. Ronald Reagan couldn't get it. Nobody could get it. I got it. It was done, ready to start. And when these people came in, they turned it off. They terminated it. Nobody could believe it.
I don't know if people realize that 10 to 15% of the entire economy is energy,
right?
And it weaves its tentacles through everything else. So $5 gas affects the bread truck who's delivering the bread, and that affects the cost of the bread then. And so, getting that plentiful,
right,
changes everything.
So I have a little thing that I've been saying lately because I think it's easily achievable. We pay very high energy costs, and especially now, but we're paying very, very high. I believe I'll be able to get energy down to 50% of what it is right now within a period of less than a year.
Wow.
That's pretty good. It's going to happen fast, okay? It's going to happen fast.
Well, what are you going to do to do that? What causes that?
They're going to drill. They're going to frack. They're going to do things that they have tremendous additional...
So taking the regs off. Taking the regulations off.
We have to. They put them back on. They put regulations back on. That areas that have no environmental real meaning, they don't let them drill. They're taking leases away, government leases that you're hearing about. I think we can get energy costs down to half of what they. If we do that,
that's pretty dramatic.
Everything, all of those inflated prices are going to come down with it.
Download the Ramsey Network app.
Not a strategy I've heard before, but I will admit it makes some logical sense there. If you can get energy down, you can affect everything. Now, I don't think you stop with that if you really want to beat inflation, but I do think you take the edge off it and you make it manageable. Like, we've all accepted you're going to have inflation. It's when it gets so far above what you can handle. I'll give you an analogy of like fitness. Like, you're going to eat food. You're even going to eat some bad food, but you need to eat a small amount of bad food that your body can burn off so it doesn't store it into fat. It's when you eat so much bad food that your body can't burn it and it has nowhere to do but to store it as fat, that you start to get extra unhealthy, right? Economies are the same way. If inflation isn't healthy for you, that's normal. But if you have a reasonable amount of it, you can handle it. This may help bring it back under control, which would be really nice to see. And then you're going to have to increase production. That's really what's going to slow the thing down. We have to get a culture in America of people that want to be productive. We need to get away from this virus of, I want an easier job. I want more money. I want more benefits. I want more, but I don't want to work for it. I want people to want more too. That's what ambition is. But you need to move towards it as far as you're earning it, right? That's what we need more of. We used to be an industrious country. We would get after things. We had ambition. We were the belle of the ball, man. Everyone in the world looked at us and said, I want to go there because if I work my butt off, I can get somewhere. It's now gone in the other direction from too many years of just stagnation, just expecting things for free. Everybody wants to be a TikTok star. They want to be an influencer. They don't want to be a person that gains skill and learns a trade. And if we can get that down and start producing more things, that will also help bring inflation under control. All right, last video that I've got for everybody in today's David Greene Show episode is a practical one.
And higher wages are at the heart of the nationwide port workers strike. Right now, tens of thousands of union longshoremen are stopping the flow of goods at ports from Maine all the way to Texas. Karen Kafa looks at when that walkout could start to impact our wallets.
There's a big gap between demands of the International Longshoremen's Association and the latest offer from the United States Maritime Alliance, or USMX, which represents the major shipping lines, all foreign-owned, and terminal operators and port authorities. At issue, wages and automation at the ports.
They want to come into America and build fully automated terminals and get rid of American jobs, good paying jobs. that support families with medical, pensions, annuities, and pay taxes.
Some of the 14 ports involved, the massive port of New York and New Jersey, as well as Boston, Baltimore, and Charleston, South Carolina.
I'm confident that everyone that is involved in that on either end are aware of it and did whatever they could, but we cannot settle the strike between the carriers and the union.
Also, Wilmington, Delaware, which declares itself America's largest banana port. That means bananas could come up short at the grocery store. And even though domestic farmers grow cherries, certain berries, and other fruits, they can't meet all of the nation's demand. Without imports to boost supply, prices could push higher. Raw ingredients like sugar and cocoa imports also at risk, as well as imported chocolate and alcohol. The good news for holiday shoppers, things like apparel, toys, and other gifts don't have a shelf life like food imports and can park in a warehouse for months. So when retailers saw a potential strike on the horizon, they rushed to get products delivered before the strike began. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
No one seems to know this.
All right, there you go. Food probably going to get more expensive the longer that this goes on. And perishable goods, if you think about it, somebody loads up a truck full of bananas or grapes. They send it to the East Coast and it sits there for 3 or 4 weeks before it gets unloaded. Is that even still something that can be used anymore? Like some of those perishable goods that we import from other places, you might not be able to get them at all. So if that's something that you need, now's the time to go get it. Luckily, toilet paper, it doesn't perish. So you're okay. I wonder if we should all invest in a bidet company, right? That whole crazy, there's no toilet paper. It's COVID. Let's freak out and buy it all. Can you just eliminate that if we all took the French route? I've never used one of those before. Probably more information than you guys thought you're going to get on today's show. But I am curious if you just eliminate that entire problem by doing that. All right. Elva Reines says, so what's Spartan League? Spartan League is my real estate university sponsor of today's show. This is where I help people learn everything that I can teach them about real estate and how to build wealth. So it's not a place for people who already have their niche and they know what they want to do. They're a flipper, they're a wholesaler, they're a short-term rental operator, and they're crushing it. This is a place where people go to learn the fundamentals of real estate investing to figure out what they want their niche to be. So you get 5 calls a week. You get exposure to the Spartan League Instructor Corps, which are all the people that work for me managing my properties. You get exposure to me. You get 24/7 access to the Discord group, which is an online community where you can talk to each other and to me and the instructors. You get access to the recorded library. All calls are recorded where you can watch them later. It is probably the best way you will ever find to learn about real estate investing if you want to do more than just listen to free content on YouTube or Spotify. Also, you can check out the David Greene Show for more concentrated content. This is kind of like light and nice and fun. But if you want to get boom into the nitty gritty, check me out on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to the YouTube channel to get notified when new episodes come out. It's really good stuff. I just recorded 3 podcasts today that we're working on, and I'm looking to hire a full-time editor, thumbnail person, someone that can really help me grow the YouTube channel. So if that's you and you're looking for a job and you've got some skills and you think that you're the best option for me, send me a DM and let me know. All right. We don't have any more comments coming in, so there's nothing here to cover before I let you guys go, but please do make sure that you like the video. I appreciate it. And Elva Reines liked my answer. She said that's awesome. So thank you, Elva. Thanks for asking a great question. And you guys can DM me anytime. If you heard something in here that scares you, you want to talk about what you're scared about. If you want to refinance your house because your rate is above 6.5% to 7%, you should DM me about that. If you want to learn about retreats, head to davidgreen24.com/retreat, where you can learn about the retreat that I'm going to be putting together for real estate investors. I appreciate all of you. I'm working on the website, realtalkrealestate.com. Probably in a month, I think that it's going to be up and running. I'm really pushing for it to go faster, but you know how it is today. Everybody wants to work at their own pace and it's slow going. But I appreciate you guys for following me. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you hear when I go live, and I will catch you on the next episode of The David Greene Show.